Hello and welcome to the American Circus program, a podcast aimed at what is unique about America and the American personality. Our goal on this show is to expose exceptional personalities and have you judge them as heroes, as rebels, and as saints. We'll present the issues and facts, and then we'll ask you, our audience, are they heroes? Are they rebels? Or are they saints? That's the three-ring American Circus, and I'm Arnie Pickholtz. Who is Val Demings? In today's American Circus, we'll look at the candidate for U.S. Senate, a black woman from Central Florida who is challenging Marco Rubio, a solid conservative from South Florida. The political landscape in Florida is a very mixed bag. The Pew Research Center gives conservatives 58% of the vote based on conservative political ideology. Democratic voters will claim 67% when they're looking at liberal issues, with a sizable percentage that doesn't lean one way or the other. At this point, the fate of both candidates rests with a small percentage of voters and how they perceive their legislative fate. Let's look at key issues and see if we can provide some clarity without editorializing the meaning or the rationale of a particular candidate. Val Demings comes from humble beginnings in the Jacksonville area. Her primary interest growing up was law enforcement, and she followed that path, and in 2007, Demings made history when she was appointed to serve as Orlando's chief of police. She became a police officer with hopes of changing, as she put it, an entity viewed skeptically by black Americans from the inside. By making the Orlando community a partner of the department, Chief Demings made the concept of protect and serve a tangible presence in Orlando's most dangerous neighborhoods. Did it work? The violent crime in Orlando fell more than 40% during her tenure, according to FBI statistics. On the downside, it was reported in the Orlando Sentinel that force in the Orlando Police Department was used around 20% more than by officers in some similarly sized city. Her response was stoic. Looking for a negative story in a police department is like looking for a prayer at church. It won't take long to find one. After a few political setbacks, she successfully won her first elected office in 2016. In 2020, Joe Biden placed her on a short list as a vice presidential candidate. Biden said, "She is one of a group of close to a dozen really qualified and talented women who are on that list. She's very competent and a very capable person." On that note, let's take a look at political truth. Is what we are hearing from politicians what they really want us to hear, or is it varnished into a fairy tale-like story designed to lure us into a marketing fantasy? By the end of the year 2016, the Oxford Dictionary classified post-truth as a word of the year. It was the year of fake news and a general threat of post-truth that warped the basis of both politics and science. We saw the result of this political push in a politically explosive election, and in particular, in the death of hundreds of thousands of Americans from the COVID epidemic. With the rise of populism in our political conversation, the very idea of liberal democracy and knowledge was challenged. Populism freely shares its supposed knowledge, portraying American politics as an elitist experience or an ideological agenda of liberal elites. Populism, by definition, puts the people against the elite or the existing power structure. Populists typically present the elite as comprising the political, economic, cultural, and media establishment, which are accused of placing their own interests, and often the interests of other groups, such as large corporations, foreign countries, or immigrants, above the interests of the people. On another level, beyond the populist rants from world would-be and ever-changing politicians, there is the reality of the deep fake, which is the manipulation of audio and video content using artificial intelligence technology. Consider this example. A high-tech Russian disinformation campaign that tried to prevent the election of Emmanuel Macron as France's president in 2017 was thwarted by a well-prepared Macron team, but it might have succeeded against a less alert candidate. In another Pew study, nearly 2/3, that's 64% of adults, say it's hard to tell the differences between what's true and what's not true when listening to elected officials. By contrast, a majority of adults, that's 69%, say that it's not hard to determine the truth when talking with people they know. A clear majority of adults say the federal government could share more with the public than it does. Fully 69% say the federal government intentionally withholds important information from the public that it could safely release. So with all this in mind, let's take a quick look at what faces us in this upcoming midterm election for U.S. Senator in Florida. And we'll look at Val Deming's accomplishments and allow you to make the judgments about her character and her abilities. On voting rights, she said, "This is a case to determine whether politicians can draw political lines that silence or exclude the voices of entire American communities. Congress must act to restore and strengthen the Voting Rights Act and protect our freedoms, even if it means ending the filibuster." On the impeachment of President Trump, she became one of the first women and one of the first black Americans to prosecute a presidential impeachment before the U.S. Senate.
This is a defining moment in our history and a challenging time for our nation. But America has been through tough times before, and I am sure that we will go through tough times again. So I do not fear this moment.
She chaired the Committee on Intelligence, Counterterrorism, Counterintelligence, and Counterproliferation, Committee on Judiciary, Crime, Terrorism, and Homeland Security. Her vote counted for the People's Act, Women's Health Protection Act, Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, among others. On abortion, she says we must work relentlessly to preserve our right to choose and our right to privacy. We must protect Roe v. Wade in federal law. We cannot go back to the time when women were treated like second-class citizens and who don't have control over their own bodies. Freedom means the ability to live your life as you choose. On education, she said, we need to focus more on our children graduating from high school. All Americans should receive equal access to quality education, regardless of zip code. Why can't we provide college for all without facing crushing student loan debt? I voted yes on private lawsuits for school race discrimination. On crime, I support police, but we also have to deal with social ills. We need to improve relationships between police and community. Police work should be about building communities. First step, reduce recidivism and mass incarceration. I am for stricter rules for police accountability. On Social Security, protect Medicare and Social Security for all seniors. As a matter of record, Val Deming's votes have counted positively on almost all issues she has tackled, and she has spoken on many more important topics and questions of our time. And of course, the big question is, can she get anything done in the Senate and in Congress? This has been our attempt to state facts and perspective on Val Demings, and not a recommendation or endorsement. Now, the decision is yours. Is Val Demings a rebel, a hero, or a saint? Send your response to onpick@comcast.net. We'll tally the results and send them to Val Demings. For the Great American Circus, this is Arnie Pickholz. Have a nice day, and no matter what, go out and vote.